people can walk.
Beautiful intro.
Yeah, animals are pretty efficient with the way that they consume and utilize units of
Right,
energy.
the biological process by which physical matter is taken apart and utilized as energetic resource, biological organisms are shockingly good at that. For each particular kind of organism that has a preferred food source, and it has evolved to be as efficient as possible using that resource, because obviously resources are limited, and so evolutionary pressure means that the more you can get done with limited resource, then the more likely you are to pass on the genetics that make you keep passing on genetics, and so that means that the genes that have to do with processing resources into functional energy are more likely to also get passed on. And so we have biological power.
It's a process of trial and error that's led up to current extant beings which have found themselves to be efficient within certain respects and certain niches.
And what's cool is that the efficiency is what gets adapted. The human organism attempts to maintain a certain level of efficiency, which isn't maximum efficiency, but it's like jack of all trades, right? We're not ever going to be as capable of, say, digesting plant matter but we can still process a large number of plants pretty darn well with the help of our friendly gut bacteria.
The development of the brain has made it so we can just process foods before they even enter our bodies.
Right. Virtualization technology is important.
Right, like our stomachs don't need to be as acidic or as thick-lined as our ancestors.
Although the actual digestion of meat happens a little further on in the duodenum because the enzymes that digest protein and fat require a relatively alkaline environment in order to activate. So the lipases, I believe, and proteases are not active in the stomach. They kind of are dormant until they get into the duodenum. And then the duodenum releases bicarbonate, which reduces the acidity and activates the proteases and the lipases, and those can start to deconstruct the meat. So biology is cool. So from there, we realized that cars are like one of the beautiful epitomes of overspecialization. Cars drive, and they can only even use one fuel. Whatever fuel they're built for, that's what they use. If you modify it to use, say, a biofuel, it loses the capacity to use regular fuel, right? So we can eat vegetables and meat, unlike cars, which, you try pouring 86 and 97 or whatever they are in at the same time, and your engine's not happy. So much like doctors, cars are hyper-specialized into one field of their field.
They don't tell you anything helpful, and they cost a lot of money.
And I think that what we're going to also try to prove here is that they're less efficient.
Right. We got to thinking, what is the level of efficiency in terms of pure energy converted to transportation?
Right.
We have petrol for cars and some average all-around food that someone could have at any given time, more or less. We picked sub
sandwiches because it has all of your food groups, all of your macros. It's easy to hold while you're walking.
Which is another advantage.
Probably safer even than looking at your phone while walking. I'd say eating a sandwich is safer than looking at your phone.
Unless you're hypnotized by the sandwich to the point.
I mean,
where
I've
you have
had
no
some
idea
pretty
what
good
you're
sandwiches, I've got to say.
It's a rare sandwich, in which case it's worth to get lost.
Yeah.
Because the sandwich is just so good.
You'll find your way back.
Yeah.
That's what you have a phone for, that you're not looking at because you're eating your sandwich.
So, oops.
It's catch-22. What do you do? So what we did, right, is we looked up, first of all, density. So we're looking at kilocalories, right, which is the food calorie. 1 calorie is the amount of energy that it takes to raise 1 milliliter of water from 0 degrees to 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. That's a lot, right? I mean, you think about how long it takes to boil a liter of water, and you think 1 kilocalorie, one single food calorie, takes you from a block of ice to boiling. I find that amazing. That is so much energy. That seems like, holy crap. Like, imagine being burned by a fire that's bringing a liter of water to boil.
You think of how much wattage or how much methane is needed to get your tea kettle from room temperature to boil.
So already that's pretty incredible. And consider that, what is it? 1 gram of fat is 9 kilocalories? 9 liters of water with 1 gram of fat? I don't know. It boggles my mind when I think about that, like try to imagine that in terms of pure energy. And of course, these numbers were taken from studies that used a bomb calorimeter, right? They literally like burned shit until there was nothing left and looked at the difference in the temperature of the water shield that surrounded the chamber in order to see how the temperature differential and use that to determine the amount of energy inside of the food product. That's where the number comes from. But so that's amazing. So just to start out with, we have this really incredible amount of energy that we're using as our measurement scale, right? Which is the kilocalorie, also known as a food calorie. In the US, we just say calorie. In a lot of other countries, they write it kilocalories, kcal.
We write just like capital
Right.
C calorie.
Yeah, we use this capital C calorie to differentiate, which of course means that no one can tell the difference. So we talked to ChatGPT, right? Because we're living in 2023. Every question now has to go through ChatGPT.
I frankly trust ChatGPT more than
Whatever article I would find on Google.
right.
I trust my ability to discern the validity or correctness of the information coming from ChatGPT more than I necessarily trust some unknown person writing an article on some random website. If I see something coming from ChatGPT and I go, is that true? And I ask it, and if it wasn't true, it will apologize and give me something different. So it's like interactive, whereas I can't do that on a website that I just find some numbers. I can't ask the author, and even so, they just get mad at me.
Yeah, ChatGPT at the very least has provided us with reasonable answers.
And that's all we need. You know, we're not trying to do some crazy math paper here. We just want ballparks to make silly YouTube videos. So what we found out is that 1 gallon of gas is approximately 114,000 kilocalories. So that's 114 megacalories. And one 6-inch sub sandwich, on average, right? Every sandwich is different, just like every person. Different fillings, but they look kind of similar on the outside. Oh, no, it's supposed to be the opposite, isn't it? People are like the same on the inside, but different on the outside. Unlike sub sandwiches. So sub sandwiches are not people.
People are chewy on the outside but crunchy on the inside.
Just like sub sandwich. Well, no, sub sandwiches have. I mean, I guess it depends on what you make. Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking lettuce, but then I thought, well, if you get like a French roll, like a sourdough bread roll, then it's going to be crunchy on the outside.
Oh, dang.
Anyways, 1 6-inch sub sandwich. I asked ChatGPT for a standard sub sandwich, and it answered me with a 6-inch sub sandwich. So apparently 6 inches is the standard sub sandwich size for a generic average impossible sub sandwich, because averages don't exist, but this is the average sub sandwich, and it came in at 1 6-inch sub being 600 kilocalories.
100 kilocalories for every inch.
Then we moved on to asking the important question: how many sandwiches is a gallon of gas, basically?
Petrol gasoline is one of the most efficient ways to compress and deploy energy.
So what I wanted to find out is how many sandwiches you can fit into a gallon, right? Like, what's a gallon of sandwich? Mm-hmm. You can fit approximately 213 and a half 6-inch sub sandwiches into a 1 gallon volume of space, as compact as possible, according to ChatGPT. 213.5 6-inch sub sandwiches into 1 gallon. So a gallon of sandwiches is 128.1 megacalories. Mm-hmm. Sandwiches are actually denser than gas. It's just that it's impossible to crush sandwiches that tightly into a gallon of volume, right? Because the reminder is that a gallon of gas is 114 megacalories compared to a gallon of sandwiches, which is 128.1 megacalories. So already we've got this discrepancy. If you could fuel your car with sandwiches, then you'd be getting more energy per gallon, but the car is made to handle a very specific amount of energy due to the compression ratio of the pistons and such.
Okay.
So you can't give it more energy and have it go faster.
Pepper jack cheese, too low of octane.
Too low octane cheese.
You get pulled over The police officer reaches into your fuel tank,
Into your
pulls
gas
out the
tank and
sandwich.
pulls
It's
out
like, is this Italian urban cheese?
That's illegal in 13 states.
Do you, do you realize how delicious you're traveling?
Just imagining someone stuffing sandwiches into their
Oil companies
intake
hate him.
for the gasoline canister. So some presumptions, right? A person can reasonably walk 30 miles on 2 sub sandwiches. This is completely pulled out of my ass. Not the sandwiches. I don't keep sandwiches up my ass.
Got to have a fuel compartment somewhere.
Yeah.
But we kind of have done that. Like on 2 meals, we've walked, and then like by the end of the walk, we're
Still feeling, we're
pretty
tired, but we
tired,
feel,
but-
the next day we're sore, but we
we
feel,
have been nourished.
yeah, we're constitutionally fine. We're not statutorily fine.
No.
Our constitution is good. We feel invigorated. We don't have any adrenal fatigue.
Right.
I watch and read enough hiking journals to know that 30 miles is like the average. That's like for everyone who goes on like the PCT or the AT, any of these really long distance, they're going 25 to 30 miles. That's the standard. And they are usually eating not a lot of food. Now, to be fair, they tend to end up thin because they're like eating oatmeal and shit. You know, you're not getting enough nutrients out of that. But if they were eating sub sandwiches,
If you were carrying and preserving a foot-long sub for every day
Yeah.
of travel,
yeah, I think you're set.
we might have to test this, but
We can try it. I mean, the biggest problem actually is going to be preservation. But you know what? I have a suction food sealer. And
from today's sponsor, Mylar.
no.
Mylar bags.
Mylar from today's sponsor, Mylar
These are
bags.
just Mylar bags. are the sponsor. Just the bags themselves.
They don't have a lot of money, but you know, every penny is worth it. We're poor YouTubers.
Yeah.
Take what we can get.
When we get a harvest right, we have to try freeze drying a whole
I was just
sandwich.
thinking that, yeah. You would probably want to freeze dry them separately, honestly, and then like recombine it. So like you would freeze dry each piece and then put it back into a sandwich shape. Rehydrating is going to be the problem because they're going to require different amounts of water to rehydrate.
It's hard enough with a steak.
All right.
Uh,
I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
a really thin sprinkler-esque sort of graded deployment, but it's like super thin, so you can finally control.
What we'll have to
the
do
amount of-
is invent a sandwich rehydrator.
Oh no, this is it. Food sauna.
Food sauna. Yeah. What if you had like a plate in the center, and what you did is you separated the sandwich in 2, right? And the top part goes in the upper chamber, and the bottom part goes in the lower one. So the water doesn't have any trouble getting to the very center of it. And then you just pull out the 2 halves and put them back together. Or you could even slide the centerpiece out and it puts it together for you. And of course, it'll be foldable and ultralight.
Yeah.
So you're having your 2 sandwiches, you're walking 30 miles, you feel good. Next day, you can just get up and do it again, no problem. Let's say that a car can reasonably drive 30 miles on 1 gallon of gas. That also seems reasonable to me. We're not talking like hybrids here, right? This is just gas. 50 miles per hour is the efficiency cap. So whenever they drive a car and they tell you how many miles per gallon you're going to get, 50 miles per hour is like the fastest that you can go before air friction starts to reduce your fuel efficiency. So we're assuming kind of 50 miles per hour speed, but that on 30 miles, you're going through a gallon of gas. And so what you end up with, right, is that a person, after walking 30 miles, has gone through 1,200 kilocalories, and the car, after driving 30 miles, has gone through 114,000 kilocalories.
Which it just blows my mind. But
right, orders of magnitude.
now the car is an order of magnitude heavier.
And it can carry a lot more.
Yeah.
And it goes faster. Like the 30 miles that you're driving, that takes you on a good road that's like 40 minutes of driving. Whereas 30 miles walking is like 16 hours of walking.
day.
It's like a whole day. You're walking 14 to 16 hours. Big difference there in terms of speed and carrying capacity. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about efficiency.
Energy efficiency.
I mean, you could argue that efficiency is always about time.
No. Time is money. And money is very inefficient.
Yeah, and we're not talking about money. We're talking about sandwiches.
Like, comment, and subscribe if you like sandwich.
It just
Like a little
cuts
squeak
off.
at the end.
So they're able to walk 30 miles. They're pretty fit. So we're gonna say maybe they weigh like 160 pounds.
We're going to also assume that this person can carry 50 pounds without losing efficiency.
Right, without slowing
Which-
down. They're not like sudden. Now they're walking 20 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've carried a 50-pound pack, almost. It was like 40 something, I think, and that's pretty damn heavy. Like we're talking kind of at the upper edge.
Right. It doesn't feel like much to start, but after a couple
Yes,
miles.
I mean, from personal experience, I can say that with a 40-something pound pack, I walked 10 miles at a clip
quite the
in
clip.
3.5 hours, I think, if I recall correctly, in the pouring rain in Alaska. And if I hadn't been in the pouring rain and trying to walk as fast as I kind of could, I probably could walk much further. And of course, you consider someone walking 30 miles, they're not stopping. Like, you got to spend time eating your sandwiches, you know?
Or you slow down to a dainty stroll,
A pondersome stroll,
ponder the sandwich.
get lost in the sandwich
The bread is still steaming.
from the sandwich former from when we rehydrated it. Yeah, so I feel like that's fair. I mean, and maybe it's a little bit less, right? Maybe they don't weigh 160 pounds. Maybe they weigh 150 pounds, and they can carry 45 pounds without losing efficiency.
We're not splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
We're looking for something that's better than the truth.
I mean, look, if you're looking for truth, you can't use averages to begin with. Statistics
No.
are worthless for the truth. So we've got to make amends here. We're using statistics,
They are Chat GPT statistics.
and so we love them.
They're quite reasonable. And then we're comparing this person to a pretty lightweight car. We're being conservative.
We're saying this is like, you know, a compact. It's not a subcompact. It could be, you know, any normal sedan. So let's say that the car weighs 2,400 pounds, just over a ton. And we're doing this. I'm using pounds, by the way, and pounds and miles because I'm extremely patriotic, and we live in the land of eagles and stars and stripes. We are federally legally obligated when making media to at least once mention imperial units. It's required. It's in the contract, in the American
You've got
contract.
your federal legals, your paralegals,
Your eagle eagles.
eagle eagles, legal eagles.
Your legal eagles.
Remember that YouTube
I've
channel?
never watched any of the content, but I've seen it pop up on my recommended list. Always looks like clickbait to me, though, so sorry, Legal Eagle, if you're listening. The only lawyer I watch is Lockpicking Lawyer.
Best lawyer,
Probably.
probably. We don't really know, but he can lockpick. So by default,
If we're using lockpicking capability as the metric by which we rate lawyers, then he's at the top. Right. So we're saying that this car, this 2,400 pound car, can carry 500 pounds without losing efficiency. I got to the 500 pound number by doing two things. The first thing is I thought back to driving my 300 pound friend in the car next to me. I think he was a little under, actually, but he was, you know, in between 200 and 300 pounds. He was a pretty darn heavy guy. Him in the passenger seat, along with some gear, plus me, plus his girlfriend, like, you know, it was a full pack car, and I drove it to Washington. And so I drove 15 hours straight.
wow. Okay.
Didn't stop. It sucked. So I drove really far, so I got to feel driving that amount of weight, and I thought to myself, it was slower. This car was not as happy. But if it wasn't a car with a crap engine that's not made to carry a lot of weight, like maybe it's actually a lightweight truck. If it was a lightweight truck, then it would probably carry about 500 pounds. And because that's 10 times 50 pounds, I thought that was fair. And so that's it. That's, you know, as scientific as it gets around here.
It's 2023. We can all be comfortable sharing our feelings, and feelings are real.
And valid data for comparing sandwiches to gasoline.
QED.
So if your average hiker that we have selected, cherry-picked from the crowd, so he's not actually average, weighs 160 pounds and can carry 50 pounds without losing efficiency, and we have a not-so-average cherry-picked fictional car that weighs 2,400 pounds and can carry 500 pounds without losing efficiency. So the question is, would it be more energy efficient for the person to walk back and forth 10 times, or for the car to take that 500 pounds to its destination one time? Just energy efficient. Obviously, it would be faster, way faster. Way, 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 way faster. Question is, does it take less energy?
So that's going to be 9 round trips and then one-way trip.
Right.
2 sandwiches per one way, 4 sandwiches
Right.
per round trip.
22,800 kilocalories. So 22.8 megacalories.
Which is equivalent to, to almost 0.2 gallons of gas.
2/5 of a gallon.
That's about 3/4 of a liter.
How many sandwiches is that total? 4 times 10, so that'd be 40 minus 2, so that would be 38. So 38 sandwiches. And the car takes a gallon. It's around 5 to 6 times as efficient for the person. I just turned miles into days there. What is that? Twice per 50, back and forth 10 times.
30 miles is one way, right? And then you have to do 30 miles.
Yeah, back and forth 10 times. So that's 20 times.
Minus 1.
Minus 1. So that's 19 days. All right. 19 days versus 6 times more. So how efficient is it in time? So it's 19 times less, but not even. What is that? 40, almost an hour, 24 hours
What
in
are
a
you
day.
trying to fractionize the 40 minutes?
Yeah. So like 40 minutes is 2/3 of an hour.
3 halves of 24, so that's 24 times 3, which is 72, divided by 2. 40 minutes is 1/36 of a day.
Let's see, 19 times 24 is 456 hours, but you're not actually walking for 24 hours. But you do have to take 24 hours, even though you're not
So
walking.
the
whole time.
ratio, what's the ratio of time?
Yeah, car to person ratio.
It's 19 days versus 1/36 of a day. 36 times 19. So that's 1/684th.
So it's
Time in the
684
car.
times more time efficient
Yeah.
to take the car. But it's 6 times less fuel efficient. So you have to really decide on time efficiency versus fuel efficiency.
It's a big decision. You can't take this lightly. You've got to decide, where your values
Yeah.
truly lie.
Well, it should lie in sandwiches, obviously. But
You're not thinking enough. If they're not, think harder until they become sandwiches.
all your thoughts. All of them.
People say that part 3 of the 4th jhana is nothingness, but it's really sandwiches.
Yeah, it's often left out of the descriptions.
What you have to do is push through the nothingness until the nothingness becomes sandwiches.
Right. Because there's nothing but sandwiches. What I find fascinating about this whole thing is that the general rule that you can either have fuel efficiency or time efficiency is kind of a general rule of transportation. And like kind of things in general tend to work that way. It's like either you can use a lot of energy and get something done faster, or you can use less energy, but it'll take more time to get it done. And in the long run, after having taken the time, you will have still used less energy than it took to get it done faster. I find that very interesting because it means that no matter what, anytime you ever do something faster, you can know that you are expending more energy in order to save time. And it's this kind of a weird, it seems to be some sort of rule, some sort of energy rule in terms of physics.
If Newton had just thought a little bit sooner about it, he would have created his law of sandwiches.
I mean, it could have been, if a sandwich had fallen on his head, then.
If he was sitting underneath a restaurant instead of an apple tree,
Why would they just like throw a sandwich out the window?
it's like a bottomless trash can where he's just he's under the floorboards and then the food just gets tossed onto his head.
I was thinking maybe like the restaurant's up on stilts, and when you order, they drop your sandwich to you.
Oh, that's fun.
You got to catch it, and like, because someone else could catch your sandwich, and then you don't have a sandwich.
Sandwiches can't be created or destroyed. They can only be stolen.
So walking is efficient, more so than we expected it to be, right?
Right.
I always thought like, oh, it takes time and it's nice because you don't have to pay for a car.
You just
But-
think of just the amount of food that you eat, and you think of the volume of gasoline. Perhaps we don't even know what our margin of error is, but
Oh, it's huge.
it's not as huge as the importance and efficiency of sandwiches.
It's enough raw energy to bring a lot of water to boil.
Insane. It makes me wonder how that energy is stored.
It's locked into the bonds between the atoms in the sandwich. And of course, we don't get anywhere near this amount of energy from the sandwich. If you're talking about real efficiency, like we're actually off because when you eat a 600 kilocalorie sub, you're not absorbing 600 kilocalories because otherwise you wouldn't poop.
Your digestion it consumes a bit of energy too.
It takes energy. Yeah, there's a balance there. But like so we're actually even more efficient, honestly, because when a car uses gasoline, it explodes the gas and uses the explosion to move the car. And we just kind of used chemical fire to disintegrate things and that makes us move.
And like a lot of that goes into cell repair.
Oh, yeah.
And just
Yeah, huge amount.
so many things that like hormonal balancing, like, blood alkaline acidity, neural activity, a whole bunch of things.
Even though we are not a single purpose machine like a car is, we are still more energy efficient. People say jack of all trades and master of none, but still better than a car.
Master of sandwiches.
Cars can't make sandwiches. Yeah, so I mean I think that's a wrap on that. We've gotten all the basics down.
Like a sandwich wrap.
Yeah, like a pita wrap.
How many? We gotta
We gotta recalculate
We
if
gotta
you're using
calculate
those.
it
Yeah,
in,
we can't.
how many heroes does it take
That's for
to
the
get
Greek
to 1
audience.
gallon of volume?
It'd probably be somewhere around the same.
Maybe, yeah.
I'd think.
Actually, yeah, because a hero is more dense, so even if it's
'Cause
smaller,
there's a lot more
then-
meat in a hero than in a typical sub sandwich, I'd say,
Yeah.
even though they're smaller.
We're treading in new adventurous territory of what could be solved.
And there's there are second steps too that we haven't even taken. Like, if you had a vehicle that weighed less, then it's possible that you could get it to be, eventually you could get it to be more efficient than a person. Inevitably it would carry less. And then of course we could go the other direction and put a person on a bicycle. Suddenly your carry weight skyrockets and you're going to be even more efficient. There was something I saw that was like, how many burritos does it take for a cyclist to ride like however many miles? Because it was like, how many burritos per mile do you get is the equivalent to how many miles per gallon do you get? Yeah, here we go. Bike fuel, miles per burrito. You could expect about 38 miles per burrito.
Tremendous amount of efficiency.
If we assume that a burrito is about the same as a 6-inch sub sandwich, that would mean that it's twice as efficient, a little more than twice as efficient to ride a bicycle than to walk.
Ride bikes. Take pride in the most efficient form of transportation, wherever you may be. If you're like, oh, I don't have the time or the means, stop doing so much.
Yeah.
Just
Slow down and eat a sandwich.
focus on the things that matter, like sandwiches. If you don't have like at least 2 hours out of the day to just think about sandwiches, what are you doing with
living
your
at
life?
that point?
I would lose the will to live.
So that's not a life.
Yeah, that's just like the feeding time. That's not counting the the anticipation of the sandwich,
So many good sandwich memories.
all the memories you've had with sandwiches.
Sandwiches have changed lives. It's a beautiful thing.
Sandwiches.